Hi guys, my name's Ellie, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be playing with the Naked Smoky, and I kind of need to have some wandering thoughts about the new Naked stuff, the Naked Reloaded. I very well may make a more detailed video later. Oh god. So, the reason I thought this was an appropriate thing to talk about while doing this palette is because I own this palette. I've never used this palette. It still has the plastic on the mirror. So I thought we could potentially, well, I'm talking at nothingness. If you guys would comment in the comments, we can have more of a discussion, but right now I'm just talking to nothingness. I'm gonna put on some eyeshadow primer and see what we can do. I have feelings, and you know, if anybody has made videos or tried to like talk about something without having structured points, you know how weird this is gonna get. With the Naked palette being discontinued and them now bringing out the Naked Reloaded, I have some feelings about Urban Decay's use of their Naked line and the way they're doing certain things with it. The other thing I wanted to do was play around with this just because I haven't used it before. So I'm going to take some of 13, the super white color, which might not be a good idea, and put it on my crease to brow bone. Normally I haven't been using the shades in palettes, and this might be a horrible idea because this looks pretty white. Ugh. So, let's start with, oh that's fine. Let's start with my history with this palette. So when this came out, I had not gotten, like I was starting to get into makeup. I maybe had the Naked 3, I don't know if I had that yet, but back then I was doing a lot more minimal, very neutral brown colors, not really going into anything brighter than maybe a copper. And this came out and I was like, I don't do smoky, so I don't need this palette. And everybody ranted and raved about how great it was, which it does overall. It looks like a really nice smoky palette. I was about to say it's a nice palette, but I haven't used it, so I can't say that. Ugh. And there were a lot of tutorials that were almost tempting me to get it, and I was like, I don't know. Because I was like, I don't do smoky looks. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with this palette. I am going to take the brush that's in it to do my crease and see how that goes. I'm going to start with Combust on the bigger, fluffy end. And so I didn't buy it. I looked at it from afar. I didn't see it in store for quite a while. And I just kind of let it go by the side. Like, it's not for me, because I had not gotten into the big collecting part of my makeup journey yet, because I went from starting makeup in an attempt to figure out how to use certain things I already had and had bought for certain occasions so they wouldn't just go bad on me, to trying to like deciding I do like wearing makeup, I'm gonna make it a thing. And then later I got into the collecting phase, the I need to grow my collection phase, which we're kind of leaning out of. I think I'm gonna mix. Well, first I'm going to take the smaller end and put Combust on my lower lash line just so that we are matching the top and the bottom. Yeah, I hadn't seen it in stores yet. That was a while off. I was still doing a lot of my shopping online, and I didn't see the need to go into a store and try it because I wasn't interested in buying it, despite how pretty it looked on everybody. And looking back, I think a lot of people were really playing up the smoky aspect because you can get a lot of mid looks out of this without leaning that heavy into the smokiness. So I think I'm going to attempt to mix Whiskey and Combust to make more of a mid shade to do my crease, because Combust is pretty but very soft, and I think that might be part of the point of having something that light, is to mix it with Password and Whiskey to make a more mid-toned shadow. Oh ho 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 ho, we getting smoky real fast. Blending is important when you're trying to sheer out darker colors. So that worked well, just scary. You never know when you're trying to mix shades together how well and what ratio you're gonna get. So, see, that one got a whole lot less pigment than the first go. So yeah, I didn't pick it up on the first wave, and then it just didn't seem super pressing. Like, as I got more into color and depth and, you know, experimenting with my looks, it became more of something I wanted to get. But it never, like, once something has passed the initial, like, I want it for reasons stage, you kind of have to come up with an even more specific reason to get a palette, at least for me. So getting it because it's new is a thing. I hadn't gotten into the, like, getting things to make up for bad days type part of my makeup journey. And I believe I put it on some, like, birthday and Christmas lists, but nobody had picked it up, so I didn't get it. And since it was not a new release, and also not something that was, like, staring me down, begging me to get it, I didn't for a long time. I saw it go on sale a couple times, and I, like, never really quite was all the way there with buying it. I'm doing the same mixture of Combust and Whiskey on my lower lash line, by the way. Or attempting the same ratios. We will see. Blending really nicely, though. And then I think I want to go a little deeper with Whiskey just in, so we're just picking up Whiskey now on the smaller end of the brush to kind of just like pop, pop, pop. Really carve that crease deep, because we're going to put some darker shades on it. So yeah, it popped up and it kept going on half off sales. And the first one, I saw it and I was interested, but I wasn't quite pulling the trigger because I felt like I needed a reason to buy it, like a more external reason of a celebration or something. And I looked at it like all day the first time I saw it go on half off sale. And I talked to my friend and she got it, and I don't know. And I don't even remember if it was one of those things where, like, it was between pay periods and I wasn't confident that it was a good use of what money I had. I don't remember if that was a part of it. But I do remember being at my then boyfriend's apartment and, like, talking to him about it, and, like, as I was talking, he's like, you know, it sounds like you really, really want this palette. You might as well just buy it since you're thinking this hard all day long about it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That's a pretty good reason. It was sold out by then. I checked several sites, even though, because it was one of those things, like, when Urban Decay has stuff go on sale, often it goes on sale across all their retailers. So, like, the Urban Decay site, the Ulta site, the Sephora site, they all have generally the same deals on Urban Decay. So, all of them had sold out because, you know, it had been half price and people were excited about it. People will snatch up a makeup deal. Okay, so I think our matte base is down. Took a little bit more effort because they don't really have the type of shade I would normally use for my transition, but the mixing worked quite well. I have a plan for the 3 shades I want to put on my lid. I gotta get all my brushes ready. I want to do Smolder on the outer corner, and then Radar into Bittersweet across the 3 parts of my lid. So we're going to start with Smolder, which should be a metallic, cool-toned purple. So yeah, that was my first attempt to buy it, and I didn't, because by the time I realized that yes, I definitely wanted it, whether or not it was a justifiable, like, oh, it's my birthday, or oh, it's buying a present for myself for whatever reason, I had decided I wanted it. That was step 1. I definitely wanted it. And since I didn't get it, but my friend did, I got to see a lot of the looks she did with it. I got to see how excited she was with the formula and how many different combinations she was able to use on it. So again, I was much more interested in it, but now I knew there was the option that maybe it would come back on sale, so I was not buying it full price. And it was, you know, they'd done a sale, so they'd burned through a lot of their stock. It didn't come back in stock for a while. But by now I'd realized I wanted it. And then it came on sale again. And I think that was one of those times where, like, I was a little low on cash and I didn't really want to spend it on a palette right then. I was going to kind of see if it, you know, I think I was, like, right before payday, so I was hoping that it would still be in stock when payday happened. It was not. We're going to take Radar now and put that on the center of the lid with a different brush. So, I missed out on that sale. And I think it happened a couple more times where, like, things would come up. Either I just didn't really have the money to spend on it, or didn't want to spend the money that way. But, you know, since I knew that it was a thing that went on sale, I kept waiting for it to go on sale when I had the money and was comfortable spending it. And I think I also a couple times would ask, you know, a boy or somebody, be like, hey, this is happening, do you want to get this for my birthday? Do you want to buy me a present? Because sometimes, if you're in that type of a relationship, the boys will take the option to buy you a present. And with that relationship, if they were saying, I haven't bought you a present in a while, whatever, or like if you've helped them with something, they're like, oh, I should get you a present. And I would suggest this, and either they wouldn't get it before it sold out, or they would be like, I'd rather buy you something else. Because, you know, it's a present, they get to pick what they give you. And so I just kept not getting it. And I want to say, when I picked this up, it was right around when I was starting to try my first low buy. I picked this up and something else. I picked up like a blush palette just because they were both things I've been looking at for a while. They were finally in stock and on sale. And we're taking a Dirty Sweet on the inner third. And so I picked it up. And then I set it aside as a something I would want to earn. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I do that. Especially if I'm trying to limit my purchases or, you know, all sorts of different reasons. Oh, that has a lot of shine. We're gonna need to work on the blend. Oh, and the fallout. You guys can't see. So, I bought it and I set it aside being like, hey, once I accomplish this goal, I will let myself play with the thing. And I don't know if I either didn't accomplish the goal or if I just kind of set it aside and forgot about it. I'm just putting some more Radar over the section that I just covered with Dirty Sweet. Yeah, I think I like that. That's quite pretty. And then I'm going to take a little bit of high on the inner little bits to highlight my inner corner. And then I'm going to have to talk real fast because I've basically run out of shadows that I was going to use. So, I set it aside and I didn't touch it. And I kept intending to do something with it, and not. I do remember, in the meantime, I bought that before. I had bought the Naked One as kind of like a testing it out, you know, things that are people's holy grail type product. And it was quite nice. And I was getting much more comfortable with cool tone shades, with darker shades, with doing grungy looks. So I was getting there to a point where I really should have gotten this palette out and gotten some usage in. I think what I'm going to do is take this brush with some of Smolder and pop it on my lower lash line for some definition, smokiness. So yeah, I spent so much time thinking about this palette, coming to the realization that I wanted this palette, coordinating the purchase of this palette, and then I didn't use it. This is the first time I have used this palette, which was kind of weird for me. When people were talking about it being discontinued, and all of a sudden everybody came out of the woodwork saying it was such a great palette and whatever, and I had heard a lot of really positive reviews, but it just hadn't stuck around. We had gotten into that phase where there were enough releases that it wasn't staying viral the same way things like the Naked palette had, where people were using it and using it and using it because there weren't as many releases or as available a supply of releases for people to review. Now there's so many items coming out that you're lucky you get more than one video on a palette or an item as it goes out. You get a review, you don't get follow-ups, you don't get much else unless somebody decides to pan it or to do like a retrospective look. Most of the beauty community are not doing more than a video or so per release, because a lot of the people are trying to keep up with all the releases and do reviews on them, which means they can't spend that much time on each of them, and they can't go back and do the other one because there's always a new item coming out for them to grab and review and have opinions on. So yeah, I do like it. I like the look. It did come out decently smoky, nice and grungy. This was the start of them moving to this nice plastic packaging that they've used for the heat and the cherry, and I think it was the first time they kind of, because even then this is still pretty neutral, but like stuff like slanted and like the purple, these were the start of leaning away from taupes and browns. And I think it was good. I think this is something that if they had changed a couple different shadows in here, would have sold so much better. There's just, like, I don't think you necessarily need both armor and slanted. They're both pretty, but you don't need both in the same palette. Black market I think is a little unnecessary, but honestly I think a lot of blacks are unnecessary. You don't need them in every palette. And I understand trying to make each palette into a cohesive color story, and you can make as many looks as you want out of this, and kind of downplaying the fact that people are going to pull in colors from other palettes to finish looks if they really want it. With something like Smolder, you could have done something else here. A different dark color, not just a black. I appreciate these mattes. I think that was when they really started doing more mattes in the Naked palettes, and that was appreciated because they'd done one, maybe two in the other ones, really not expanded on the fact people are building shades. So this was the start of Urban Decay acknowledging that the palette culture and format was changing. People were not using just shimmers. They were using more than one matte. They were building more detailed looks, and they wanted something a little different than browns and beiges. So I do think I'm potentially going to sit down, not today, and film a kind of like shop my stash, what I wish the Naked Reloaded was, because the Naked palette itself is still a very good palette. Hold on, grab my palette. It's a nice palette. it has some colors, like the Toasted and Hustle, leaning into like the pink and the purple. Oh, there is a blue here. So like the blues are over here as well. I think the idea to do a reloaded palette and kind of update it to be the new go-to, the new neutral, the new daily with the newer kind of culture on colors and variety within a palette. I think that's a good idea. I think they really missed the mark with it. Do I think it's a bad palette? No. Do I think it's anything that really stands out among the rest of the Naked palettes and is enough of the justification to make up for the discontinuation of the Naked palette? No. So, I'm gonna finish up my look. I like it. I do think this is the kind of thing, or if I had one or just a few palettes, this could be a very nice go-to work palette, which is kind of what I always started to feel the Naked palettes were. Because, you know, Naked, stripped down, minimal, all that you need for a palette that, you know, I don't know. I'm gonna go finish my look. I'll be back. I really like how this turned out, especially with the lip. The lip helps the overall grunginess, and still wearing my bone earrings to feel the full grunge and smokiness. I like it. I think it's, again, it's first impressions, first time I played with the palette, but it worked really well. It was pretty cohesive. The colors blended really well. They were a good formula. I think that part of my gripe about them discontinuing this and the regular, you know, Naked one is unnecessary. With the current mentality of everything needs to be a sellout, a consistently flying off the shelves type thing. Sorry, I'm shaking everything as I am emphatic. I don't think it fits. I think perpetually chasing the next big release or the next big cash cow for your company ruins the fact that this is a very nice palette. This is something that a lot of people were still talking about as like go-to favorites or, you know, standard beginner palettes or things if you don't want to do the next big thing. With so many products being limited edition, selling through, and then having something pop up a couple weeks later that's basically the same thing in a different box, I feel like it might just do better to make smaller batches of the standards, keep them, and then have your limited edition ones be the more experimental ones. So having something like a go-to Smoky palette that, yeah, it's not that exciting, it's not that unique, but it's there. It's there when somebody wants it. It's there if somebody has a last-minute thing and their makeup all got lost on their trip or something and they need to grab something they know they like, they can get that. Having these available choices is important. And making it something where everything is just rolling out and being dropped off as soon as it's no longer, you know, new is weird to me and I don't like it. But yeah, the palette's very nice. I like how it turned out. I'm gonna go, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.